Hello everybody and welcome back to the Conversation Couch. I'm Paul Meenan and today's extra special guest is Karen Boom from She's Electric.
Hello.
Welcome to the couch.
Very exciting to be here.
And this is the very first time we've ever met, by the way. This is literally the very first time we've ever met. So we're going to talk about the industry, but before we do, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, who you are, introduce yourself.
Well, about 8-9 years ago, had a bit of a midlife crisis.
And this is my dog,
this is
Bella, who loves everybody. Come here, you.
Had a bit of a midlife crisis and decided that I needed a new challenge. And it was the first time in my life I needed an electrician. I struggled to just find somebody who wanted to come and do a small job. So I decided that I would look into the route into training to be an electrician because it seemed like a good thing to do. And I really struggled to find out any information about somebody who was more mature could get into the industry. So I did what is very frowned upon by some people, a short course. And then I was horrified at the quality of the training. My background is training anyway, in IT. So yeah, I wasn't particularly enamoured with the quality of the training. And then also massively, I had a big wake-up call because I didn't really have the skill set or knowledge set to go out and actually do the job.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky through social media, connected with another Sparks, who... Hello.
Stop it, Bella.
Had lots of skill but
Sorry.
no work. And long story short, I basically went about promoting myself. I used to get jobs to do. I would price it, he would come and help me, and that's how I served my apprenticeship, so to speak.
So how long have you been in the trade now?
9 years.
So you've served your time.
Yeah, I think
basically.
so.
Yeah, no, and that's key thing as well. So a lot of people, years and years and years ago, when I was running my first job, I asked a guy, and it was an eye-opener for me. It's a story I tell a lot of people. And when you go to a commercial or industrial site, the guys queue up to hand over their tickets. There's my dog crying because she wants food. You hand over your tickets, and I said to this guy, "Where'd you serve your time?" And he turned around and he said, "Oh, it's 9:15. And I was like, "Pardon?" He says, 9:15. I said, no, mate, where did you serve your time? And he didn't understand what I was talking about. And I was like, well, what have you trained as? And he said, oh, I've done this electrotechnical. First time I'd heard of the word electrotechnical, because it was always part 1, part 2, A, B and C or something like that. So I then realised, the courses are changing. The entrance criteria is changing. There are people doing these short courses, don't know what this is about. I'm in these 4 walls of an electrical contractor. What does any of this mean? I better start reading up on it. And the guy, I said, well, look, we'll give you all a chance. And he was like, well, I can't do conduit, I can't do trunking, I can't do this. And I'm sitting there going, well, you've just sacked yourself.
Yeah.
I can't pay you a spark rate, but I can pay you a labourer's rate or a mate's rate because you've still got a journey of learning to do. And so we sat him down and we said, look, we'll teach you everything we can, pyro, everything, but you've got to serve your time. And he was like, well, what does that mean? He said, well, you need to do at least 3 or 4 years on crap salary, doing all the crap nobody wants to do, before you can actually have the conscious awareness that actually I can do that. And that for me opened up a whole different way of thinking. Before I was very much, oh, if you haven't done an apprenticeship, no. But then again, I look back at my apprenticeship and I did half of it in one company and the other half in another company, and I was so busy working, I never did my AM2, never did my skills test because I was so busy working.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in the 90s who, I think the AM2 in the late 90s, there was 2 places in the entire country you could do it, and it was at the same time they launched this thing called the NVQ. And we remember when we were finishing our last day of college, the tutor went, there's something called an NVQ coming out, don't worry about it because it'll just die off, it's nothing. Now there are a lot of guys who qualified late 90s who are like, yeah, I'm kind of stuck in between. So when I applied for my JRB card, I got like a labourer's one,
right?
And I was like, hang on a minute, I was the NICQS for EDF Energy on £100 million worth of stationary wires, and I got a labourer's card. And I was just like, yeah, the system might be broken a bit.
Yes.
Okay, what do I need to do? And it opened my eye massively to the world of training and stuff. So you've served your time, which is brilliant. But do you find men treat you any differently because you're a woman? Because for me, I think I've only met about 4 women in my entire career in our trade. Two of them were on site, two of them were in management. Do you find you get blokes treating you any differently, or?
Not really. I think I've been really lucky. Any jobs that I've ever done that have been on a site with obviously lots of guys, we have great banter. You know, actually, I think the woman adds a little bit of humour.
Yeah. No.
Coming from a slightly different angle. You know, there's obviously lots of in jokes, and it's just.
I think with the banter with men as well, a lot of the men will wait for the woman to start the banter, because I mean I've always been super cautious around ladies, because I had one experience on a job where we employed a woman. I really hope she isn't watching. And one of the lads tried a bit of banter with her, and she went absolutely mental, had a total breakdown, and then ended up suing the company for 3 months' salary.
Oh.
And basically she wanted a huge payoff.
Yeah.
And it was, the guy picked her phone up when the text message went off. And it was like, yeah, this is somebody trying to get money out of the company. Yeah. And yet she'd spent a year with us bantering and having fun, and just switched. And it nearly destroyed this guy's life who worked for me. Luckily, he got over it and we got through it.
Yeah.
And luckily she didn't get a penny, because she was agency. And it was like, well, okay, you've only worked agency for actually 2 weeks before your past employer. But it taught me a lesson in management of, be very careful about what you say, never, not just to women, but to anybody, because in modern world now you have, I mean, I've met lesbian electricians, which was an experience. I've met gay electricians. I've met one who was trans, which was really weird, because I went, hello mate, and he went, what are you talking to? And I was like, have you got boobs? He's got boobs. This bloke's got boobs. Hang on, is he a bloke? Is he and then I was literally like, I don't know what to say. I was totally, what do you do? And then literally one of the people, when they left the room, and I went, and he went, he's a woman now. And I was like, shit, but he hasn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he hadn't shaved.
You just don't know.
No, you don't know. So you've got to be super careful, because you don't want to offend people if people want to do their own thing and be their own person. That's what diversity, inclusivity is about. But on site, you're absolutely right. The banter is key. If you do not have banter on site, you've got a dead job, and it makes it horrid.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely makes it horrid. So most of your work is it domestic, commercial?
It's mostly domestic. I've got a couple of builders that regularly use me, and so I'm working on a new build over in Blackmore at the minute. Just finished first fix on that. That's great. And yeah, one of the things I love about this job is there's such a mixture. It's so diverse. Like, you know, this morning I was doing under cabinet lighting. This afternoon I was on the new build cutting out the back boxes for, you know, because the plasterers come in. Yeah, tomorrow I'm doing lots of small jobs in Billericay, in the old people's home. It's just, yeah.
So she's down the road from me, so obviously she's come all the way to Southend. She didn't need a passport, because she's down the road from me, and where she lives is where my local cinema is, which I frequent. Bas Vegas, I think used to be called. Yeah. So I go there all the time when I get time to go and watch films and stuff. I'm a huge cinema freak. It's one of my unwind times. But what I find is as my missus constantly tells me, every time I go to the cinema, I go there, I sit at the back, and I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because I'm so tired.
Well, I can relate to that massively. Yeah. I think when you find that off switch and you come down, it's actually quite relaxing. So.
Oh, don't! I've been to the cinema sometimes where I used to live in my old place, because I worked so many hours. The manager of the cinema in Harlow used to turn around to me and say, "If you come to sleep," because he used to wake me up so much, because people would complain because I might snore occasionally, especially if I'm slouched in a chair. But yeah, you do realise then probably you do work. But I don't know anyone in this industry who doesn't work silly hours.
Yeah. Well, I find that when I get home, I am just still going, because I'm thinking about dinner for the kids. I'm thinking about the quote that I've just been to do and where I'm going to source materials from for that, and the mind is just going over and over, and it's never ending.
I know. So for me, I mean, when you're off, I'll be upstairs doing work emails. I've got 2 designs to review. I've got 3 new stations being built, 3 new bridges being built. I've got 2 INGs that I've got to help. One of them's in Ireland, which is phone calls to people. And yeah, it never ends. It absolutely never ends. We're getting ready to go to Alex as well in September. You're coming to Alex in September.
Coming to that, yeah.
That should be good. So we've been going to Alex now for a number of years. Coventry's the best for us, because we book a hotel, and near to the hotel, a walk across the road is a curry house.
Excellent.
So what we do is we just go there, we book it, but this year John Ward's coming with us, so John Ward's probably going to get thrown out for smashing the place.
Oh dear.
No, he won't at all. But yeah, so no, we're all going to go, and it just saves on petrol because we all just car group.
Well, I actually was born in Coventry.
Oh really?
And lived there until 22 years ago. So
oh wow.
I know it very well.
Wow.
So yeah, my parents' house is literally a stone's throw from the Rico Arena. So it's all stomping ground for me, yeah.
So we try and get to all of the Alexis because it's kind of like it's gone from a CPD day to go and catch up with your mates day.
Excellent, yeah.
Kind of thing, really. And so I went to meet John Ward all the way down in Exeter, which was an amazing Alex. They're all different. They've all got different dynamics and layouts. But I also go to, like, if I can do the NIC lives, but I would wish the NIC lives would be free if you're watching, because I think they do maybe watch these if they haven't fallen asleep already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on a side note, because there is some very probing questions which we have to ask you at the end, because everyone gets the same questions. You see, just as much as I do, because I work in industrial, I see some utter shite. On a week by week, daily basis. Luckily, I've got some good sparks now who raise it and say this needs fixing. I go ahead, fix it. But in the domestic world, some of the stuff that I've seen that has never made it onto Twitter, that should have made it into court, there is some utter crap out there. And why do you think there is so much rubbish? Because a lot of the industry doesn't want to talk about it because they think, oh, if we talk about the negative, we're negative people. We're not. Identify there's a problem and then come up with some solutions. Maybe that'd be a good thing. Why do you think? I mean, do you find a load of...
I do. I find a lot of things that go on where people say, oh, this has recently been done. You know, why don't you get that electrician to come back? And the response that I usually get is, I don't want that person back in my house again.
Yes.
I get that a lot. I think that there's also quite a lot of people hide behind the have a go, because we all get taught how to wire some
plugs
circuits.
in school. Yeah,
we do taught that in school, don't we? But you know, as I say to people, well, anybody can wire 2 bits of copper together and make something work. But there's a massive difference between making something work and making something safe. And the amount of people I speak to and I say, do you know what the difference between a 3 amp fuse and a 13 amp fuse is? And they go, well, no, not really. I'm like, well, if you don't understand that, you really shouldn't be messing with electrics.
No, I know. And that is the problem. So for me, I've been asked to go and have a look at electrical installations. I've been to some new builds estates, and even when we were looking for houses, this is a 1930s build, but some of the new builds I was looking at, I was mortified by the quality of work I see. And you can see from meeting the likes of Ricky and Sam, I went to one of their union meets once, and I did a little presentation on the industry and the wiring regs, and there was guys there that were sacked for doing the job properly. Yeah. They were actually sacked for going, there's no bonding, I can't do this without bonding, or they were raising issues. And one bloke, I'll never forget it, said, I've been basically on a job where I've been in like a school, and there's been 2 sparks and 20 labourers, and we've done all the containment on one floor, and then they sacked us and let them do everything else everywhere else. But then they got us back 2 weeks before the start of the term because they hadn't done it right. Yeah. You know, they'd chem fixed and didn't blow out the holes, didn't use the right mix, didn't do anything properly, didn't know how to set out and level, and it's just a disaster, and they've been brought back in.
I think people just aren't prepared to spend the money. Yeah. You know, I've got a neighbour, and I've lived next to her for 20 years, and in the last 10 years she's had a new kitchen, she's had a garage converted to a den for the kids, she's had loads of stuff, electrical stuff put in her garden, and she texted me the other day and said, oh, having a real problem, the fuse keeps popping for the shower pump, and I've had the plumber in and he says he's convinced it's something to do with the electrics. Can you help me? I said, well, can you send me a picture of what you're talking about, and can you also send me a picture of your fuse board? Yeah. She's still got reliable fuses in her fuse board, and she hasn't got an RCD. Wow. She's had all this work carried out, and I was like, have you? And I said to her, all this work you've had carried out, have you got any certificates for that? What do you mean? Well, you do realise that when you're going to come to sell your house, you're going to need a certificate for all this electrical work you've had done. Really? Well, no one's ever told me about that.
Yeah, I got a periodic for this house. I asked for the electrical certs, and I eventually got it. And the guy lives not very far from here, and the fact that he'd signed off all of this work, the minute I read it, I just went, this guy hasn't tested it properly. No. And when I lifted up the floor and found all the bonds twisted together, I thought, he hasn't verified anything. And and that's the problem. There are lots of guys going for quick bucks who maybe do an 18th or a 17th. They do one 2-day or 3-day course every 10 years and think that's enough. And in our industry, I have not had a day where I haven't sat back and gone, I didn't know that.
No,
I didn't
absolutely.
know that. You know, for me, I've had to demonstrate lots and lots of knowledge and evidence over the years and read, and yet there are still days when I'll meet someone who is still in the trenches and they'll go, oh, what about this, that and the other? And I'll go, oh, I didn't think of that.
No, I didn't think about that.
Didn't know that.
There's no such thing as a stupid question, is there?
No,
Because
there isn't. And every day is a learning day in our industry. And I think a lot of the guys, a lot of people in our industry have been told, get the gold card, get your JRB gold card. By the way, I don't have an issue with the JRB because everybody comes in and told go for gold. That's your first milestone, for want of a better term. But a lot of guys, once they get it, they switch off because in theory, electrics is really simple. Run a bit of copper from A to B.
Yeah.
There's a switch on it somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a fuse or a bit of overcurrent device and a load. And fundamentally that's it. But when you then start talking about equipotential zones and invisible equalising of voltages, people then switch off. And the amount of sparks who've gone equipotential bonding, and I go, yeah, the green and yellow stuff, and I go, no, the principle of equalising all voltages on any exposed or extraneous conductors, and they go, pardon? And you think, you need to go back to college.
Yeah.
You need to start learning. And even for me, when I left college, I had a light bulb moment where somebody said to me, equipotential, you realise it's just equal voltage, anything metal. And I was like, oh my God, I did 3 years in college and didn't know that. And yet every day when we were in college, our tutor, God love him, he wouldn't let us leave the room until we'd memorised a standard number.
Right.
And we hated him for it.
Yeah.
But I'd come out of my time and it was like, well, what's that fuse? I go, it's a BS3036 semi-enclosed rewirable fuse. And they'd go, pardon? How do you know that? And I go, I know where the standard is. And it was amazing how armed to the teeth that background knowledge. But Sparks, we don't have that mentality, a lot of us.
And also, there is no electric police. So.
Oh yes, the electrical officers, yes.
So, like, I went to look at a job the other day, and there was a tripping problem with the kitchen sockets, and I went out to the fuse board, and I looked at it, and I thought, this looks a bit dodge. So I, looked a bit closer. He was like, oh yeah, well, we were having tripping issues on this circuit, and an electrician came and he did something, and it was a faulty RCD. I was like, what, you mean this 100 milliamp RCD that's now in here? And the certificate's there in front of me, and it's an NIC certificate, and it doesn't say 100 milliamp RCD, it really says 30. But that's not it, is it? But where are the electric police? They're not going to come around with the blue sirens.
There's a great.
Go,
I love the GIF. Anytime anyone puts anything on Facebook or anything, and you think there's a job for the electrical officer, I always put a GIF of all the police running and stuff. And there's a brilliant one that a lot of Sparks use on social media of the 3 cowboys marching, because it is hysterical. Now we had an incident where one of the guys who we know and love dearly was trying to raise an issue that he had to go and fix, where an electrical contractor made somebody's home dangerous, and here she comes back for another cuddle.
Hello.
She's just been adopted, by the way, so she's very clingy.
She's very cute.
She's very cute.
Yeah.
Bella, calm down, darling.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect this, by the way, when we were filming for her to be all clingy. Bella, darling, stop it.
I know you're
Stop it, darling.
She's a good girl.
So he went into this person's house and found the electrics are super dangerous. And he then said to the person, do you have a certificate? Yes, got a certificate. Great, insurance back guarantee. And what happens on the insurance back guarantee? The owner of the home has to give the contractor a chance to come and fix it.
Absolutely.
Whereas you just said, I don't want him back in our home, because what you'll end up with is a spark going, what's your problem, like? And I've had it. I've given out snag lists to contractors, and I once had a contractor come to my house going, what the hell is this? What's this? It's a snag list. Often do it. And I think there's that intimidation and fear thing that these warranties don't take into account human behaviours.
No.
Doggy, stop it. I'm going to have to edit her out, I think, somehow. But yeah, and it made the insurance back warranty a mockery. But I think enough people need to. I think we need to petition almost the bodies that are in our industry. There must be a better way of complaining about electricians' work. Because I know everyone said, oh well, you could just use it to grass up your competitor. Yes, you could, but crap work is crap work.
Well, yeah.
And if there's a reporting system and you're able to take photos, record a video, send it to them, it's not hard to have one of the guys in the technical helpline go, oh yeah, that's bad, and then ring you back within an hour or so and go, actually, can you not do any work there? We're going to come out in the next 24 hours. We'll do our own independent assessment. If there are certificates, we'll find out who did it, we'll pull them aside, and we'll either sling them out on their arse, or we'll force them to be retrained as part of the membership, or we'll just name and shame them.
Yeah.
I know the NIC used to have, I don't know if they still do it now, but they used to have this hall of shame.
Yes.
Where they throw people out.
Yes.
But in the latter years, I was an NIC contractor, it was only because of rule, whatever it was, and when you look that rule up, it was failure to pay.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, okay, there should be a rule of lashy, rubbish, crappy electricians, because there are plenty out there. And that for me is one of the biggest challenges. A lot of people have said to me over the years, yes, good girl, why do you put on, and we have done for many years now, pictures of piss poor electrical installations? And the reason being is it's not to name and shame the contractor. Bella, stop it, darling, stop it. Yes, not to name and shame the electricians. It's actually, if one person sees it on social media and goes, why, what is wrong with that? Because they're the person doing that in a similar vein. And then when you've got 50 people going, it's wrong because the overcurrent protected device doesn't discriminate, or there's no earth leakage, and it's not buried at 50 mil in earth metallic conduit, and these are all the reg numbers, and that person goes, oh yeah, I didn't know any of that. Oh, good point. Yeah. Then that's worth it, because hopefully they'll be, if they have a heart and soul, they'll almost be embarrassed into improving and upping their game. Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, I have done in my time, I have done some shockers, I have done some horrendous stuff that I look back 20 years ago, and I was working in someone's house putting a socket in, and I worked on lead twin cabling that I should never have touched. Although in fairness, in my defence, 20 years ago, these things called RCDs were supplementary protection, and they were optional, and most people who were old sparks would go, no, don't need them, mate, just do the job properly.
And anyway, you're going to get nuisance stripping, so don't bother.
Yes, exactly. And that was the case. Now we're getting more and more intelligent with RCDs, but I think, and there'll be a video coming eventually, RCDs I think eventually in 20 years time are going to be obsolete.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They're going to be totally obsolete as a technology. God knows what we're going to have. I think I said it with Richard that I think we're going to have boards with touch voltage monitors, earth leakage sensors, the new OPEN technology for EV. Yeah. That's I think gonna be, I mean, it's in the 18th at the moment, very discreetly, but I think there's just gonna be more and more tech, and it's gonna make it harder for our industry to have good electricians doing it right to the regulations.
Absolutely.
One of the things I find, I don't know what your view is when you have a gas fit around, why does everybody still think it's Corgi and not gas safe? Because Corgi did the best marketing and government-backed marketing, where everybody knew, unless they're Corgi, they're nothing.
Yeah, and it was just one thing.
One thing, one word, very simple.
Part pointless organisations that nobody actually knows about.
Yep, exactly. And Part P, God, I remember when Part P first came out, I don't know if you remember this, but when it first came out, it was withdrawn very quickly because there was a section in it that required individual competence.
Right.
And it got withdrawn literally with like 4 or 6 weeks, everybody kicked off massively, and it got withdrawn completely. And with that, it had real teeth. Yeah. It had teeth, individual competence for Part P, real teeth. And then it disappeared super quick. And now it's kind of like, well, under the scope of Part P, if a cable is damaged and you replace it like for like, then it doesn't need to be notified. Okay, my entire electrical installation's damaged.
Yeah,
Prove otherwise.
It's just mental.
Prove otherwise, though. Seriously, I could rewire my entire house under Part P and just say most of it was damaged.
Yeah. It's
just dumb. But my last house, I rewired my last home, and I went to the council and I basically notified them, and they wanted 200 quid for a kitchen fitter, a guy who'd done a 5-day course, to come. And I refused because I had it on the previous house where it was just in a joke. And so I basically issued them all my qualifications, all my sitting guilds, everything, and offered to see them in court and set a precedence. And funny enough, I got a certificate about 8 weeks later through the post. I was quite pleased with. But yeah, it does show you the kind of systems are not balanced, not in check. But I do agree with you. I think there needs to be an industry police. I know the IET, I'm doing some stuff with them on Eng Tech Electrician, but that's not practical competence, that's behavioural competence. Right. So if you ever look at professional registration, it's about your behaviour and commitment to CPD, consistently learning, professional approach, not ripping people off, committing to ethical codes of practice, stuff like that. It's behavioural, and I know the IET are going to be they've launched it already, this Eng Tech Elec, with their own brand. So that a lot of people say, well, what's the difference between the JIB Register of Electricians and the IET one? Well, the JIB one is the JIB's marketing machine. It's we have a register, you've got your 18th, great, you're fully competent.
Yeah.
Even though you got your gold card 20 years ago, and that's like an MOT from 20 years ago. Have you done a skills test since? If the JIB did a Register of Electricians where you had to do an AM2 every 5 years, that would be something.
Yeah.
That would be something. If they had to do a skills test and an update on every amendment and the regulations, so that's every 3 years basically, you'd have to do an update, city and guilds, and every 5 years you have to do a skills test.
Yeah.
That would be a reasonable way forward, I think.
Yeah, I do. In the same way that the police have to do the bleep test every year, you know, it's no different, is it?
The biggest challenge with though is the IET. When they were asked, this is only a couple of weeks ago, we were in London at an event, and lots of contractors go in and they talk about how the industry can be improved. And one guy there who was, funnily enough, ex NIC, he was there and he was basically saying, look, why is the government not legislate? And the IET have spoken to the government, and basically unless 80% of the industry calls for legislation, they won't do it. Or there's a mass electrocution, which, touch wood, will never ever happen. They will never do it.
No, not
So
enough people have died yet.
What you have is basically an industry that has, and I always pull people when they say they're regulatory bodies. They're not. They are voluntary regulatory bodies. They are private, for-profit making organisations. That's all they are and all they ever have been. Looking after our industry, registering and looking after the contractors that pay them. But why wouldn't they? I mean, you're NIC registered, aren't you?
Alexa.
Oh, you're Alexa.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're Alexa. So
But
you're Alexa.
But this year, my assessment was carried out by an NIC guy.
Well,
He kept reminding me of that. Like,
they're kind of the same thing, aren't they? Basically, yeah.
Yes. However, when I first registered with Alexa, for a good 2-3 years, the NIC would phone me and email me and say, "You should join the NIC," and I'm like, "But aren't I already kind of NIC?" It's all a bit weird.
But that's the same.
But you can pay extra and say you're NIC, but why would I want to do that? It's just like,
But that's the exact same at the moment of the ECA ringing you up and saying, you should join the ECA, but I'm with the NIC and you own the NIC?
it's just weird.
Or you own Searchshaw, who
If I
own the
don't
market.
understand it, what chance have the Joe public got?
They haven't got a chance in hell.
No.
There's some quite weird marketing, and I will call them out on it every time. If you look at the ECA model, it's all about getting you specified, which isn't a bad thing, because at the end of the day, I'm not there to challenge their marketing to a certain extent, but the ethics of it, if you turn around to someone and say, if you want individual competence, go with a JRB card. I could have had a JRB card 20 years ago. It doesn't make me a good electrician. I'm a pretty crap electrician now. It took me months just doing this room because I'm really slow and arthritic. If you want organisations competence, go with NIC registration. By the way, these are all part of the same group. They're all linked. So okay, well, the NIC only look at the QS model, which is one bloke who's normally really, really good, and that's great. But the others could just be labourers and stuff. So that doesn't give me confidence.
No.
The gold card doesn't give me confidence anymore, and membership at the ECA is getting you specified. Why? Because every single spec out there says you will be NIC or ECA registered. Yeah, it kind of just forces you down a route where you're not guaranteed anything.
No.
I introduced in this route license to practice about a year and a half ago. God, I wish I could tell you the output. I'll tell you off camera, but my God, has it been an eye-opening experience for the guys. So the guys haven't had to put a hand in their pocket. I've paid for everything. So my electrical contractor that I use, they're on a 12-year framework. So rather than pay, because there is obviously registration and rechecking fees, I have paid them for the next 12 years.
Right.
So no spark puts their hands in their pockets. All they've got to do is prove their competence.
Yep.
That's been the interesting challenge.
Okay.
Because guys who thought they were qualified, turns out actually weren't qualified.
Right.
And it weren't their fault. What was happening was, and this is something for you guys watching this, you know, on your City and Guilds you've got a certificate and it will say unit credit, theory and principles, practical, and then there'll be another one that says electronic principles and work-based assignments.
Yeah.
So you get them two certificates, and then you get another certificate that is the total award. Loads and loads of guys don't have the total award.
Right.
So if they don't have the award certificate, they technically don't have
The qualification.
the qualification. And SparkSafe has highlighted that on quite a few guys, which has been really interesting, because I've asked loads of guys since and they've gone, like who don't work on my railway, they've gone, oh, I don't have that either.
Right.
And if you ask Dave what's Sparky Ninja, he'll say to you, well, it depends on how the college ran the course, what paperwork they filled in, the competence of the tutor. So that's kind of like a little time bomb for our industry sitting in the background of if you think you've got the full qualification, you may not have, and it may not be your fault.
No.
Which is a strange one. So I think the industry's got a lot of work to do.
Massively.
For me, the last 2 years I think have been wicked because I've seen the industry bodies, especially Nappit, have done a lot to improve. Nappit, I spoke to them about your podcast the other day with them. They were all over that. I spoke to Mike Andrews and he was like, right, we're going to find out exactly what's gone on.
Which is good because it needs to be called out, otherwise it's never going to change.
Yes, and they have actually got to the bottom of it. I'm not going to put it on this though, but I can give you an update afterwards as to what's gone on with that. So it was a positive outcome anyway.
Good.
So Nappit won't be doing any of those silly courses anymore, and they won't be doing anything dubious in their courses. So anyone who is caught, if you're ever on a Nappit course, by the way, and somebody cuts corners, let Nappit know, and God help that trainer, is all I'm going to say, because they will not tolerate that sort of stuff, that messing around. She is an absolute cuddle bunny, this one. So Bella, we're going to ask you, when did you train to be an electrician? How long have you had your JRB card? No? Okay, she can't answer that at all, can she? Bless her. And she basically is doing whatever she wants because that's what dogs do. Right, let's ask you one of the more probing questions. You have to go away, desert island.
Yes.
And you've got a TV and a DVD player, and you're allowed to choose between two box sets. What would you watch, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd watch Star Trek
every day.
Now, okay, so let's get it down into the detail. Would it be original series, movies, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager?
I love them all, and I've got them all.
I have them digitally too.
Yeah, it's just I just love Star Trek. It doesn't matter where you go back to, you know, the ethos is always the same, the principles are always the same.
Wouldn't society be better if they lived to those principles?
Don't
get me wrong, I love Star Wars, and I know Gary will hate me forever for saying that Star Wars Trek is better than Star Wars, but it is. Sorry, Gary. But for me, Deep Space Nine is the best because it's more community driven. Lots of eclectic people who wouldn't normally hang around.
Yes.
So just for John Ward's sake, if you had to pick between Deep Space Nine or Next Generation, what would you pick?
I'm going to have to say Next Gen.
Fuck. Okay, all right, so it's a little thing me and John keep going, all right, fair enough. Right, so yeah, Next Gen, I've just been binge watching Next Gen actually, when I get 5 minutes to... before the new Picard series comes out. That looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
And some of the originals are back.
Yeah. If I went to sleep and woke up on the Starship Enterprise, I think I'd be like, yes.
Yeah, I know. I
think life would be a lot simpler.
So if you had any, now that we've got that serious question out of the way, if you had any advice for any of the industry bodies, what would it be? So if you had 5 minutes with, I mentioned the industry bodies and the dog's crying. Bella, stop it. If you had any advice for, let's just go through them all. If you had any advice for NIC, what would it be?
It would be just try and be a bit more pro Sparky rather than, I think I said this on a comment recently. The industry seems to be, there used to be a time where being in a trade was an honourable thing. It was something that was respected.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's too much money involved and too much bickering and infighting, and I just don't understand where it got broke. It's
the competition. For me, I was in NICQS for a massive project. It was one of the biggest honours of my life. It gave me that stepping board for my career, and the NIC were wicked for me. I got to speak to Tony Cable direct when I had technical questions. They really did look after the Sparks and look after the contractors. And I do think in the last 10 years, and please forgive me for saying this, it's kind of been diluted by marketing. Electricians are not marketing experts. No. We're just Sparks who need really good help. And also I think transparency. So I know the NIC do a lot of good things for the members, but you look at the likes of Nappit. Nappit run events, one in Basildon, but they're not for Nappit events. I know. and it was really good. And Ricky won a prize, but they have it for anyone.
Yeah,
it's open to everybody.
It's inclusive.
They go to they allow the Joe public if they want to come to it, sparks, contractors, and I think we're now at that point where if you put a barrier up and say, oh no, let's ring fence for our members, yeah, you're kind of missing the point, and people will gauge you and judge you on that.
I agree.
And I don't think that's a good thing. Alexa, what would you say?
Well, again, a weird confusion. Like, if I ring the technical helpline, I can speak to an NIC person or an Alexa person. I know that there's lots of political reasons why they will never merge. But for
wasn't
us,
Alexa a Part P, their competent person scheme for that brand? If I remember rightly, I've never been an Alexa, but I think the difference between NIC, I may be wrong, so comment below if I am, but I thought Alexa, when they first formed, were just for Part P notifications. They were part of NIC but a separate brand, but now they're just marketed as the same. I just really don't know, and this is where I'm massively confused, in the same way that I was confused when the NIC were ringing me and going, you should come over to NIC, it'll only cost you £300 a year more. I was like, and what am I going to get for that? Well, you'll be able to work on commercial installations, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost like, but you can get full scope. And what I don't think they do, and I'm going to be very controversial, as an electrician, I can work on whatever the fuck I want to work on. All I need is insurance to do it. And the fact of the matter is all I've got to do is do a proper job and issue a goddamn certificate. I have not been registered and worked on commercial industrial and issued certificates. 76711 ones. I've had the right, this is when I was doubling up, by the way, when I was younger. I've had the right insurance, and I did it. I didn't need a logo to say, and now you're open to all this. No. And this is a bugbear of mine, because you get on Twitter, people go, oh, well, I'm with NIC or this other mob because they specify in the contracts. That is so 1972. No. It's so wrong. I mean, for me on my railway, when I joined, all it said was, you will be NIC or ECA. Well, the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing. You can't do that. Procurement rules, thank God now, and procurement laws say you can't do that. So all of these specifications that are saying you will be NIC or ECA are totally breaching law. Now, 20 years ago, that was fine because we didn't have all these procurement directives. No. But that kind of then makes it makes it a mockery of the benefit. And if that benefit is gone because you're in breach of a procurement law, then there has to be other benefits. And I think transparency, inclusivity, but more importantly, I've had the experience of NIC being number one, the best in the industry. I was a total NIC fanboy. When I was younger, I had NIC on my hi-fi, on my hard hat, on my clipboard, everywhere, my email signatures, the lot. I was Mr. NIC. Now I just see it as like they need to go on a journey into progressive, inclusive, open book, bit more transparency maybe. Okay, moving on. ECA, what would you have to say to ECA? Well, I have to say I don't really know an awful lot about the ECA. Okay. And what they do. And in my day-to-day life, I don't really come across the logo or anything that they stand for. So I was the same as you, funnily enough. I used to see the ECA logo and I was thinking contract association, it might be a boys club of, all the MDs get together and have a bit of a jolly. I know it's quite expensive to join. Yeah, it is. I mean, I looked at joining them for client membership. There's a specifier scheme. They've got lots of different schemes with different benefits. And I looked at joining them and there was some costs associated. It's a new thing they run. The ECA have always been, I've been to some of their events, they're very good. But for me, I saw them doing more for the contractor, that whole get you specified. And I don't see the difference now between the ECA and the NIC and all these other, because they're just one big organisation with multiple brands that kind of do little different things. Yeah. But I love the fact that ECA did Project 18. They went around with all the contractors. I find it hysterical. They gave away free regs books when, let's be perfect frank, they're not free. No. We're not stupid. It's it's 2019. It's a rebate on your membership fee, so you've paid for it anyway. It would be really good if they gave them out to every single member of that company. Like, how many people do you employ? 100. Here's 100 regs books. Yeah, amazing. But they don't do that, and so you have to research the ECA. I didn't know that the ECA part owned Searchshore, who own the NIC, and you then look at it and you think, well, hang on a minute, Electrical Safety First used to be the NIC, and there's a whole history of movement, and it's quite detailed and strange and a bit weird.
But it's confusing for people.
It to me, it's a bit. It's just, to be honest with you, it's a bit dominant. It's just, we're going to dominate the industry, but we're going to sell you brands. They're not brands. It's the same to me, it's the same frigging entity. All that money, when it goes back from NIC, it will go into its parent company, which is Certsure, which will then go back into ECA, or they'll divert it to Electrical Safety First, because 75% of Electrical Safety First is funded from NIC. And they used to be NIC. NIC is now a marketing body set up like 12 odd years ago.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is a mess. It's a total mess. Nappit, I mean, you're registered with Alexa. What are your views on Nappit?
Well, I've worked with a few Sparks who are Nappit membership, and they say really good things about it.
Yeah.
They seem to be out there, especially on social media. They seem to be the only ones listening.
Yeah. Well, they were cool. They had lots of rude names for them. I got introduced to Nappit. I'd never heard of Nappit until I actually went to meet the NIC. And I actually met their technical director, and he went, "Oh yeah, there's that little mob called Nappit." And I was like, "Who?" So it was actually Nappit's technical director, former, who introduced me to Nappit. So I went and thought, "Who are you lot?" And being a client at the time, I rang them up and I said, "Hello, who are you?" So I had no word of a lie. Mike Andrews drove all the way from his house up north to my house, knocked on my door, and went, "Hello, I'm Mike, nice to meet you. What do you want to know about us?" And I was like, okay, wow, this is different. I had to go to the NIC, and it was like, oh my God, the hallowed halls of the NIC. And it was, when I was with the NIC, they asked me, their former chief exec, Emma Clancy, went, "What do you think's, about the industry?" And I said, "Look, it's in a bad way." And they disagreed with me. They were like, "No, it isn't." I was like, "It is." That's like somebody standing on a lake that's frozen and somebody shouting, "It's cracking," and you look down and go, "No, it's not." "It is. You're going to fall through." "No, it's not." "But you are going to fall through because it's no. It's just total denial, which was a shame. And now obviously she's moved on as well. But when I met Mike, it was so open and transparent, and he said, "Look, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We want to improve. If you see anything we're doing that's wrong, tell us." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And when we started doing our E5 tours, Mike Andrews went, "Oh, do you want any help?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I love your code breaker stuff. Can you come and do that?" Because the first code breaker session, it really kicked off.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was proper banter at one of these sessions, and everybody's normally quiet, being lectured to.
Yeah.
And they came on a tour. They did Wales. They did Northern Ireland with us. They didn't have to. They gave out free code breaker books. They didn't have to. And this was us doing it off our own back, and I gained so much respect for them. And every time anybody's put a complaint in about Nappit or anything, they have been all over it like a rash. And then I think when we were in Northern Ireland was when they got introduced to SparkSafe, and I was like, "Look, you two need to talk." And now of course they are. Now Nappit have said there is benefit in SparkSafe, but a lot of people are going, "Well, what is SparkSafe?" Well, firstly, my response is do the work. Research it, read up for yourself, don't take it second hand. In our industry there's so much Chinese whispers. Go away and do the research. But SparkSafe are a non-for-profit, so all the money I've spent with them goes into making training cheaper.
Brilliant.
Who can argue with that? No one. I mean, seriously, if you do, you're a seriously weird person. But it goes into making it cheaper, which is brilliant. You can't fault it because it's transparent and it's giving back to the industry. And I can see, after getting to know them for a few years, I was like, I can see why you guys are a massive threat to the rest of the private organisations. But the biggest stupidity is how big is our industry? It's massive. There's work for everyone times 10.
Huge.
So there doesn't need to be all this. But I have noticed there's a bit of competition between the trade bodies and that's fine. I mean, I've always said that I'll support any trade body that promotes improvements and helps electricians, and that stands till the day I die. At the moment, we've spent a couple of good years with Nappit and SparkSafe. I'm using them, which is good. They're providing me a good service, a real eye-opener service. And it's just made me more determined to try and shake the tree and go, wake up. There's a major problem now. There's a major problem. And you're not going to fix it straight away. You can't sack everybody. You can't turn around and say, "Oh, did you do a 12-week course?" Right, well, you're sacked. You're not an electrician. What we need to do is go, okay, you've done a 12-week course. I'm sorry to say you're not an electrician. However, we as an industry are going to wrap our arms around you. We're going to mentor you. We're going to develop you. We're going to help you come to the realization that I can change a board safely. and confidently and competently, and I can select the right RCDs, and I know what discrimination is, and I know what the formula is for working out leakage currents and all this other stuff. And by that time they'll go, oh God, I'm constantly reading the regs, or I'm constantly researching. And that then when they go, they should be able to have maybe an individual assessment and get full, license to practice or whatever once they're fully qualified. That won't happen straight away. That'll be at least 3-4 years.
Yes.
We can do that as an industry.
Absolutely we can.
But I don't think anybody offers it.
No. And what would be good is maybe a little bit of mentorship as well. That would be quite difficult to implement because you could have some very needy people. Well,
there's a lot, let's be honest about it, a lot of the good seasoned veterans of our trade are now of the age where they'll be leaving the trade in the next. I mean, when I was younger, I met an old boy who said to me, all right son, and I was like, yeah, and he went, trade shit, it's all fucked, it's all shit, excuse my language.
Run away.
It's all shit, yeah, bollocks, I'm out of here next year, so don't worry about it. And I just sat there thinking, if it's that shit, do something about it.
Yeah.
Stop moaning and do something about it. And I'm hoping the JRB have a new chief exec who got announced yesterday, I believe, and I'm hoping, I emailed him yesterday, that he will come here when he gets time, or I can go to him and film one of these, because what I'd love to do is start knocking on the doors of the ECA. So Steve Bratt, if you're watching, the NIC, John O'Neill, who's a technical director, we've chatted on the phone. I'm hoping that we can do some conversation couch. It doesn't have to be this couch, it can be anyone's couch, and just talk in a casual manner about what you think of the industry, where do you think we need to be, because if we start by having the discussions, maybe there'll be a formula or a recipe created for the right idea.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say, oh, E5, set up a CPS. I could in a heartbeat. I don't want to.
No, it's not
Why would I?
Not what you're all about, is it?
No, exactly. It's not what I'm about. We're about upskilling those values of ours: inspire, influence, and inform. They're the things we want to do with our behaviours. But the support and educate is where our skills can be best used. I don't want to be taking money for a CPS and notifying the government on Part P. It does nothing to guarantee the work's any good. No. And let's be honest about it. If I set up a Part P scheme, we would be the most militant, thorough Part P scheme ever. I mean, I would sit in a guy's office for a week, and I literally would be going through every bit of his paperwork, going, no, wrong. I doubt I'd probably only get
You'd see
a
about
dozen
10 people
contractors.
a year.
I'd see about 10 people. I'd be like, yeah, okay, how many have you got? One. How long have you been doing this? 2 years. But it would be, because anyone who knows me from the industrial world, I do the most ridiculous detail orientated snagging. If somebody hands me a document and goes, there you go, I've finished, then all that does is just gets me blood pressure up into the DNA numbers, and then I just go, right, and I look at every single detail, and if I can see it hasn't been done right, or I go out and inspect it. I mean, I did one station with 5,500 snags on a 2-platform station.
Oh my goodness.
I found 57 defects in a 3-phase 24-way board. I didn't even think I could find that many in one board, and we did, because it was by individual fault, but the amount of breakers that weren't tightened up, screwed up, but it was handed as an energised board to me. Right. And I was then asked to sign it off as complete. Couldn't do it. So yeah, I think no to CPS. At the moment, everybody's going bonkers putting E5 logos on stuff, which is good but bad. But I have something for you as well, actually, because you're doing sticker swap at the moment.
I'm doing sticker swap.
So they're your sticker swap.
You give me yours and I'll give you
mine. There you go. Oh, I've got some She's Electric
exciting.
stickers. Yay. Great. I've also got this for you as well, because I love what you do on social media. This is your Statement of Ethical Principles card.
Oh, thank you.
And I also have for you an E5
badge. Wow, very coveted. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No worries. No worries. I shall be putting that on my... I don't know what I'm going to put. I might put that on my fridge, actually. Collect them on my fridge. But yeah, so they're all right, actually. They've turned them around. They arrived half an hour before you did.
Yeah. I have to say, the vinyl guys do an amazing job. I just saw that sticker and I was like...
He was emailing me on Sunday night at like 9 o'clock, and I thought, turnover. So the vinyl guys, great job, vinyl guys. You did. That's good customer services, to be honest with you. I find it really difficult finding places that, I mean, when I got my T-shirt made up that you saw a minute ago, that was like pulling teeth.
Yes.
It was like, really?
Well, they do T-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, do they really?
Yeah, I'm just ordered some.
Oh, okay. Okay, I may send you the digital files then, so you can have a look. And there comes the dog again, because she's going, what's all this?
You can't have my badge. No, you can't.
You can't have her badge, darling. Bless her. So yeah, I think the industry's got a long way to go. Is there anything that you would like to say to the folks watching or listening, or?
Obviously I'm a massive advocate for not just women in trades, but trades. I just think, like as I said in my podcast, I feel massively passionate about the fact that our children are not being encouraged to consider it as a career, because it's a great career.
It is.
You're never going to not have any work. You know, if you're half good at what you do and you can talk to people, you're never going to be out of a job in a trade.
No, you're not.
But also, I literally drove here talking to a lady on the phone who's feeling very disheartened because she's 30. She was a French teacher. She now wants to be an electrician.
Cool.
For lots of different reasons. She did have an apprenticeship lined up.
Excellent.
Which was due to start in 3 weeks' time, and the contractor unfortunately has had to decline her because he's got some financial difficulties and he can't afford to take her on. Now, not only is the apprenticeship route totally wrong, in my opinion, but it's just like I said in the podcast, the government should be paying people like me to teach people. I shouldn't have to take them on as an apprentice. Something needs to happen there. I'm not sure what it is. I'm sure that with collaboration between the bodies and the colleges and, you know...
See, I don't think there's a financial interest. This is what's scary. I don't think there's a financial... unless there's a financial motive for these private companies, why would they do it? Yeah. There's maybe a marketing opportunity, which is really annoying, because they'll go, oh, well, we've got this fund and we've got that fund and you can get a discount in your regs book. Really? Okay, how about this? Anyone who's a trainee should get a free regs book.
Yeah.
The IET make enough money out of it.
Yeah.
Give trainees who are on a registered scheme a free copy of the regs and a guide, an on-site guide. I mean, we know an E5 member in Liverpool who's a trainee, and he did his AM2 and he failed and he couldn't afford it. So all the E5 guys and girls, we clubbed together, did a whip round online, and we paid for his AM2 resit.
Yeah.
But when he passed that, we all clubbed together and I got him a regs book, an on-site guide, a code breaker, and sent him about £700 worth of books in the post because he couldn't afford it. He's got small kids, all his money goes on what he needs, and the industry is not helping people develop through the trade. Now, I sit at work and we have a national skills shortage, period. Now, the Department for Transport and government departments write reports saying there is a skills shortage. Nobody's doing anything about it. People are seeing it as an opportunity to set up a national apprenticeship training academy. Great. Why aren't you bringing in tons and tons of people who desperately want it? When I was training, I wanted an apprenticeship. I went to JTL and they said, oh, great. Sorry, you live in the wrong postcode.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get an apprenticeship because I lived in the wrong postcode, and I did it the old-fashioned way by picking up a Yellow Pages and ringing up every single contractor, found one, interviewed, did it old school. They went bankrupt after a year. They were in Camden in North London. So I then rung up and became an electrician's mate. Yeah. And after 8 weeks working as a mate, they then registered me as a JRB electrician, apprentice, and I finished my time with an industrial company. I had to do that for my motivation and me doing it. No one in this industry helped me. That was 20 plus years ago. We're 20 plus years later, and there is no easy access or no single route into, you want to join the industry, welcome. These are what all the terms and definitions, these are what all the bodies are. Here are the positives. Here's where you can get help. Here's where you can get support. It's not there. It's not. I think there are pockets where they do it. The NIC have a bursary for women, which is really weird because you're thinking, how about have a bursary for everybody?
Absolutely.
I know Thomas Nagy sold his van and contributed the van money to the bursary. Tell us what you're doing with it. Share what you're doing with it. Promote these people. But I see a lot of the Apprentice of the Year competitions, and you just think, you look at these Apprentices of the Year and you think, how old are they?
Yeah.
They're not apprentices in the term of a young lad or girl serving their time. They're like, you look at them and you think, they're older than me in some breath.
It's just, so that's a massive, I just think, until we shake this up a bit, I'm not really sure how and I'm not really sure who, but something needs to change because you're right, we're massive skill shortage. So
one thing I've learned in the industry is nothing changes quickly in the industry.
No.
And I've said this to a lot of electricians. I've met loads of electricians gone, F this, F that, it's all shit, it's all this and all that, and I've just sat there and gone, waste of good energy, waste of time, you're just coming across as bitter and twisted, you need to focus it in something positive. And the first thing you do, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've met all of the people in charge of all the bodies by going to the shows, reaching out, talking to, engaging in a polite manner, giving them my views and opinions, but still supporting what they're trying to do as a brand.
Yeah.
And I found with my experience, I'm able to go, have you thought about this? Because this could open a door to help more people. And if you do that, they'll listen. But you are right, it would be great to see an industry regulated. I don't know how quickly that's going to come.
No.
I mean, to be honest with you, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd go to the government and say, I'll run a regulated body and I'll pay for it all out of my own money. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket. All you got to do is act Parliament that gives us independent authority to knock the heads together. I would do that in a heartbeat. I don't have to, but I'd do it because if it improves the industry and opens the door at the bottom, but then you get other people who are like, if you're not JRB, you're a scab, you're a no mark, you're this, you're that, all these horrible names that you get on site. People need to wise up and go, there's room for everybody, but the people who don't know that they don't know need to be helped by guys, not criticised and slandered and everything else, which is just not really the behaviours we want.
Well, negativity just goes nowhere. It just promotes more negativity, doesn't it?
Well, I tell all the guys who work on my railway, if you give me negativity, you'll get sacked. If you give me honesty and you do the job well and diligently, then you'll have a job for life. And more importantly, we'll pat you on the back and look after you, which is what most employers should do, but it avoids the reworks kind of thing. It saves me a fortune in the long term, but it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy at all. Anyway, I think we've kind of put the world to rights. We'll probably switch this off now and then put the world to rights again in another way. I think that's it really. I don't think I have anything other than to say thank you so much for coming and sitting on this couch.
It's been great.
Hopefully we'll have many, many more people. And if anybody watching wants to come and sit on this couch or me to come and sit on your couch, it's very comfortable, then please do. We'll be at Alex filming there as well. Don't know what we're going to film. Hopefully not when we're drunk, because we probably will do.
You're going to film me ranting on my female trades debate.
Yes, you're on Trades Talk, aren't you?
Yes, I'm on Trades
So
Talk.
there we go. So if that isn't a reason to go alone, so there's an all-girls Trades Talk at Lex in September at Coventry. That's worth going to. I think we're going to be hanging around the Pro Electrician stand. Ryan is going to be doing some social housing stuff. Nappit are going to code break. I wish to God the NIC were back there, but they abandoned it last year and said to us, oh, well, we're not doing trade shows anymore. And now, what was it yesterday they announced?
How can you have the national show without the most prolific
But they said
body?
They said we're not doing it because we're going to focus more on our members. And I thought, that's really commendable. In fairness, because they may have limited resource. That's commendable if you're going to readjust and refocus on your membership. But now they're going back out and announcing all these live shows, and you're thinking, this is more about money, isn't it, really?
And what a captive audience they would have had.
For me, the one thing that everybody's grown up with, and a lot of people, so only Pro Electrician magazine, elect shows are the only contact guys have for the industry.
Yeah.
And I don't think the trade bodies realise that.
No.
Which is a bit of a shame.
Such a missed opportunity.
It is. So NIC, go back. What's wrong with you? Or at least make your events free. I challenge you to make your events free. Nappit do, and it benefits them massively. I mean, they've just bought Stroma today. Oh, yeah, we didn't cover that. Nappit have just announced about, an hour before we met, that they have bought Stroma. What do you think of that?
I have no idea. I mean, Stroma, for me, the only things that I've ever heard about it are that it's cheap.
Tesco value, that was the term I heard.
I did get. I mean, I know everything's a bit pub talk when you're talking with other Sparkies, but I do know somebody that they basically phoned him and said, join Stroma. He went, okay then, and they basically sent him his membership and everything, and they said, yeah, we'll get round to assessing you, and they've never got round to assessing him.
Oh Jesus!
So
I think that will change under Nappit for some weird reason.
I hope so.
I have no doubt that will change. I know Mike's quite obsessed. He's got a very good eye for let's get this right. Some of the stuff I've seen from him, I've been quite impressed with. And in fairness, when me or other E5 guys have spoken to him about concerns, he has actually actioned it and quite radically changed and improved and put things in place, which he doesn't have to. No. He could just look at us as, oh, you're just a group of electricians. But he doesn't. But I see the Stroma thing as a good thing. Stroma, I've heard the same as you. They were the Tesco value of all the CPSs. I'm hoping that they will wean out some of the bad ones, because one of the worst cases I've ever heard in my entire life was of a Stroma registered guy, and I don't think Stroma responded very well. They didn't pick up the baton and run with it. So I'm hoping that Nappit will improve that. But then again, I know Nappit, now they're looking towards working with SparkSafe. I can only see that over time, not straight away, improving, and hopefully improving the Nappit brand. I don't know what's going to happen with the Stroma brand though. So
I don't think many people have heard of it, so I don't think
well,
it will really matter.
no, only the guys who go to the trade show and then you see the banner, we're the cheapest. We're the cheapest. Right, I'm ditching NIC, I'm going with you. It's mainly Part P notifications at the end of the day, isn't it? That's what it's about. I mean, if I was such a tight git, I'd go with them, but I'd rather argue with the council.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's much more fun.
forgive the dog. The dog is going to be in lots more of these conversation couches, hopefully a bit calmer. She's just been adopted, and this is the first human she's met other than us.
Aww.
So you are such a suck up, you. Bless her. Right, we're going to end this video now. So Karen, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. If you haven't fell into a coma or switched off by now. And we will see you on the next one. Take care. Thanks for watching.